Welcome to Living Well with Mary Lou Andre, a 30-minute monthly lifestyle program to help you live better on your own terms by being inspired by thought-provoking leaders who make the world a better place to live and thrive. I'm your host, Mary Lou Andre, and today I'm excited to introduce you to Victoria Kane. Magic can happen when you stay true to your hopes, dreams, and values, and today's guest is proof of the power of living with intention and an open mind as you shape your career, your life, and your legacy. The newly minted 15th president of Dedham Savings, in the institution's nearly 200-year history, Victoria is also the first woman to hold this position. In honor of Women's History Month, it is a pleasure to introduce you to somebody who not only has learned to take a punch, literally and figuratively, but has also entered and fought the ring for the communities and causes that are near and dear to her. Please join me in welcoming Victoria Kane. Victoria, thank you so much for coming in today. You have such an amazing story, and I'm so grateful to have you as my guest in March because we are celebrating Women's History Month. And first off, just congratulations. You were recently named president of Dedham Savings, the 15th in 200-year history, and of course the first woman. So just a big congratulations. We have so much to dive into on your really interesting and inspiring career, but I just wanted to start with acknowledging that attribute and that accomplishment. Really great stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So let's start. So you started as a lawyer to banking, and banking won out. So can you just share with our viewers how you, at 29, decided to go to law school? You applied, got in. I heard there was a trip to Australia, I think you told me, in between the waiting.
Yeah.
But your first job, once you became a lawyer, was at Boston Private.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that part of your life.
So it actually started as an internship. So while I was in law school, my one of my summer internships was at Boston Private, and I enjoyed the work. I didn't know that I would end up in banking, that I would enjoy it, but I really did. And I, after working there for a summer, I stayed on, and their general counsel asked if I would stay on post-graduation, which I did quite happily. I graduated law school in 2002, and when I graduated, she said, "Love you to stay on, and I will give you 2 weeks off to study for the bar," which was a bit of a oh my goodness, because most of my friends were taking the entire summer off to study. But it threw me in, gave me a challenge, which I really liked. She said she did it in 2 weeks, and that if she could do it, I could do it. And that was sort of the start for me of realizing that you can really do anything you put your mind to, especially if someone believes in you to do it. And so that's how I got started in banking, and I just never looked back. I stayed with her for the next 13 years.
Wow, and I know that you share with me that mentoring has been a really big piece of your success story, and I know that that's something that you're taking very seriously in your new career. We'll get back to that, but you stayed working with her in the legal, and then you segued to HR. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I stayed at Boston Private for a total of 18 years, and again, I didn't realize this really until I got to Dedham Savings, but I had been really fortunate. I worked for some amazing women in my career, and it wasn't until I got to Dedham Savings that I worked full-time for someone other than a woman. And so when I transitioned into HR, it was actually a hallway conversation. I ran into our Chief Human Resource Officer and said, "Hey, I love the work that I'm doing in legal, but a lot of it's based in mergers and acquisitions." I was working a lot on the human capital piece of things, right? As whenever there's a merger and acquisition, it involves people. And I said to her, "If there's an opening in HR, is there any chance you'd take a chance on me, right?" And she said, "We'd love to, but it'll be a challenge for you, right? You will now be working with people in a way that you haven't been working with them." And I just felt like that was the right move for me at that time in my career. And I moved into HR, again, with another amazing woman leader who believed in me, pushed me really hard in a positive way. Taught me just the way that she mentored me was about the things she taught me about leadership really was about the fact that a leader isn't someone who puts themselves first. She never put herself first. She was always encouraging myself and other members of our team to really just get out there, outside of our comfort zone, having to put ourselves in situations where we were public speaking, meeting one-on-one with leaders throughout the organization, showing up at community events, just doing things that I had never had to do in my previous role, which was really more of a back office type of going through paperwork and all of that. But she always let me know she believed that I could do it. And that was huge for me. And it opened my eyes up to this world. I think people think HR is all about discipline, and it is so much more than that. And I fell in love with HR and the work that I got to do.
Okay, so what is one of the common misconceptions of PR, of HR, that you kind of dispelled during that period?
I think that HR is a corrective action type place. People only go to HR if there is a problem, right? We work on problems, we pay people, and we do benefits. All of those are true, but we do so much more than that, right? We help people with career pathing, figuring out
leadership development.
Leadership development, yes. Managing through career transitions, what they're going on in their what's going on in their career, development of all types. One of the wonderful things that I heard actually most recently from someone that I work with was, people talk about career pathing, and your career isn't really a path; it's a lattice, right? And so you have to be comfortable sometimes taking a sideways move. Right? I would say my move from legal to HR was a lateral move for me, and I made other lateral moves to get to where I am because they were moves that helped me learn. Right? So, and you have to be curious, and I think HR can help people see that you're not always going to move up. And again, sometimes taking that sideways move is okay if it gets you ultimately to where you want to be.
Because I think so law got you in the door at the bank. And I always think of law as discipline. So you had that discipline, but now that I know you, I know that you're very passionate about people and people management. The other thing I know about you, Victoria, is that you have a strong sense of community, from the way you were raised to, staying someplace for 18 years is, really something to be proud of, and then taking some risks along the way. And I also know that HR also has a big piece of community in the communities that you served. And you left there and you went to a community bank.
I did, yeah. So I left there and I went to a community bank out in Fall River. And it was a great experience. So I'd been working at a public company, and for me, I loved the work that I was doing, but I knew that it was time for a change. And a community bank really resonated with me, again, because the whole theory of a community bank, and really where I work, is actually a mutual bank. And we don't have shareholders, right? What we are focused on is giving back to the communities that we support, where we are located. And I went to Fall River to help them. They were going through a transition, a CEO transition. And again, went over there and we brought in their first female CEO and president. And the work that we got to do, the amount of time we get to spend in the community, just working in the community, supporting the community, our employees, all from the communities where our locations are, where the branches are, was just so empowering. And really one of the main reasons I made the switch then was to Dedham Savings at the time was because Dedham Savings is actually in my community. And so I wanted to be able to be in a community where I had raised my family, my children. So I've been in this community now for 23 years. And so having the opportunity to work and give back then to the community that was home to me was just a great opportunity.
And you and your husband reside in Dover with your two kids, so that's awesome. So the next thing I want to get into, because this to me is one of the most fascinating stories of leadership development I have ever heard. Right around this time in your life, you decided to do Belle of the Brawl. Can you explain to our viewers what Belle of the Brawl is and why it had such a significant impact on your leadership?
Yes, so in 2003, I'm going to go back just a little bit just so it all makes sense, but in 2003, I lost my mother to cancer, at which point I became passionate about doing different causes to raise money for cancer. And in 2014, I heard about, actually it's probably 2013, I heard about Bells of the Brawl, which is Haymakers for Hope, and it is a boxing charity where you train for 4 months and you get into the ring at the end of the 4 months, and it's all done to raise money for charity, and the whole idea being, not every fight ends at the bell. And Bells of the Brawl is designed specifically for, it's a women, I think there were 15 fights all for women. And one of my daughter's friends at the time, they were in kindergarten, was doing this. So I first heard about it from her. And so I threw my hat in to see if I could get chosen for this, not really understanding what I was signing up for at the time.
Yeah.
And I was chosen, and I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. It was, but it was also the scariest thing I think I've ever done. Initially, the most challenging thing, because when you sign up for 4 months of, I would argue, the most grueling training you've ever done, and you literally, I want to say a couple months in, every day you were stepping into the ring and you were fighting with different women who come and show up just to get in the ring with you.
Yeah. So you were working full time.
Yes.
You were going early in the morning, and at night you were bringing your daughter, which I love. And
Yes.
so she got to see this transformation. And you also talked to me that it really was about community, because you had to rely on these other women to cheer you on, hold you up, pick you up. You literally learned to take a punch. And so talk a little bit about how that did transform your leadership.
So, to your point, you learn how to take a punch, right? You hear that expression, and it doesn't mean anything until you've actually taken a punch, right? And you like the first time you're hit, you're like, ouch, and then it kind of just you just learn, like you don't have time, right? So, and I think I said to you, for me, boxing was like learning how to dance while playing chess, because you're always thinking about your next move. And you can't focus on what's just happened, because you've got to think about how you're going to respond to what's about to happen. And you're thinking about it 24/7. Once you've made that commitment, you're always thinking about the next time you step into the ring. And it was a community. I had women who would show up mornings, evenings, Saturdays, Sundays. There was a core group of, I want to say, 8 women who would show up, and they weren't just showing up to cheer me on or to hold a bag. They were showing up to get in the ring and fight with me, which sounds so odd, but the friendships and the bonds that you share there were amazing. Mm-hmm. My husband also came. He was actually the first person to punch me, which sounds really wrong. But I had a fear of punching someone in the head. It was so against anything that I'd ever done before. But it was so empowering as well, right? Just something to that strength. And it was something I wasn't sure that I actually had the power to be able to do. And to get through that training and to come out the other side. And I did win my fight, I will admit, one and done.
You won.
Yeah, I won. One and done.
Of course you did.
And it was amazing, because the night of my fight, my team from work showed up. My CEO, both of my first boss, my boss at the time, they all came out to support me, even though they thought I was crazy to get in the ring and do this. But it was a true community that came together to support me. And there was another woman from my town fighting at the same time. So it was amazing to me to see how people came together to support each other.
And you raised a lot of money in your mom's name.
I did.
Which is such a beautiful way to pay her legacy forward, and I love that about your story. The other thing that you shared, and first of all, by the way, when you told me, I was like, this is really weird. And then when I heard the story, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to do it. I mean, because the way that you described the relationships and having your daughter there, and the focus and the discipline. Again, that discipline, Victoria, you're not fooling me. Yeah. You are one focused lady. But the other story that you shared with me that I still think about it. So you would go to the grocery store with a black eye.
Yeah.
So share with our viewers that experience, people not looking at you, people shying away from you. And you had also mentioned to me, a man goes out with a black guy and they're like, oh, what happened to him? And a woman goes out with a black guy and it's a very different experience.
Yeah, so I would notice this. I would go out with my kids to the grocery store. I'd have a black eye. People didn't want to make eye contact with me. And what was so funny, I was so proud of that black eye. You wore it like a badge of honor, right? And the women that you were sparring with, they got that. But when you went out in public, people saw you with a black eye. They were just like, ooh. And at the time I was working with my husband. And so I went into work and I had to just announce, hey, everyone, I'm doing this event so that they wouldn't think there was something wrong at home. I didn't want him to suddenly get shunned. But it was a very different experience, and my husband went through it after me, and to your point, people will be like, hey, what's the other guy look like? His experience was very, very different. So I mean, for obvious reasons, but it was just very eye-opening when you're living it, to see the reaction that you get.
Yeah, so interesting. So then fast forward to the present day, and again, congratulations on this new position. What are your hopes and dreams in this position?
Dedham Savings has such a beautiful legacy of the work that they're doing and the work that they've done and that they continue to do in the community. Back in 2024, we came together with South Shore and formed Charlesbridge, which is our holding company. And my vision is to just see us continue to grow, continue to support the communities that we're in, as we've done. And we want to grow organically. We want to, again, it's about supporting the communities as far as our growth and the communities that we're in, employing from those communities, making sure that we're representative of the communities that we're in. If you look at our leadership, we have a lot of women in leadership positions. That's something I think if you start to look around in financial services, you see more of that. And I think, again, Women's History Month, it's important that we continue to focus on women in leadership positions. And for me, that's something that I think has always been important to me, is I've been really fortunate to have women who have supported me in my position, to give that back to the next generation, to those women who are coming up behind me, to make sure that they're given the same opportunities that I've been given.
Awesome. How many branches does Dedham Savings have?
Dedham Savings has 9 branches, 10.
And what towns are you in?
So we are in Westwood. This is now a quiz for me. We are in Westwood. We have 2 in Needham. We just opened up our second branch in Needham. We're in Westwood. Obviously, we are in Dedham and in Norwood and
Awesome.
Sharon.
And how many employees?
We have, totally, the whole of Charlesbridge, we have about 460 employees. In Dedham, when we look at the people that are in Dedham, we are at about 150.
Awesome. And we're going to put your contact information up so that people can get in touch with you.
Great.
So how do you define leadership?
How do I define leadership? It's funny, that's changed over time. I would say now a really good leader is somebody who, as I just said, raises those up, who raises those around them up. I see a leader as somebody who's there to serve those around them. One of the most important lessons that I learned early on is a leader isn't someone who's in the spotlight, right? A leader is somebody who lets those around them shine. And that's really what is important to me, is to not be, says the woman sitting here, but really it's to let somebody else be in the spotlight. It is to let those, I want everyone to have a chance to show their strengths and show their talents, because that's how I got to where I am, because everyone gave me those around me gave me that
And
opportunity.
how do you do that? How do you, what's an example of how you manage it in that style? Because it's a beautiful style.
I think to step back, right? We have an opportunity for somebody to speak at an event, I'd like to give someone on my team that opportunity to step forward and speak. If somebody, again, this lesson I learned early on, I don't want to take credit for anyone's work. Someone put together a presentation or put something forward, they should present it, they should put it forward. We have to celebrate each other and make sure that we recognize each other for the things that we're doing and that we're bringing forward, and our strengths. We all have different strengths, and I want to see people celebrated for those strengths. I'm in this position, I cannot, right, I'm not a commercial lender, so I'm going to need to rely on my commercial lenders to help run that part of the business. And so I will never pretend to be something that I'm not, and I will rely on those people to do the work for me.
Yeah, and your commitment to executive education is impressive. I know you well enough to see what you're doing. I love that you're the type of leader that isn't done learning. You're continuously learning, and I think that shows trust in yourself, trust in the organization, and it ultimately shows trust in your people.
Yeah.
Any cool initiatives at Dedham Savings right now? Anything going on? Any events? What's going on at Dedham Savings?
So what I'm really excited about is one of the things that we have 3 pillars that we're focused on right now. So we're focused, and one of them is investing in our people. And so we really, again, as I said, we've just gone through this big transformation back in 2024, and our people have spent a lot of time helping us get to where we are. And so right now, we really want to invest in our people. So to your point, it's about growth. It's not just about the growth of the bank, but the bank isn't going to grow unless we invest in our people, and we want to make sure that they feel that we are investing as much in them as we are in our communities, as we are in the growth of the bank, and that they've got the opportunities to see where their career and their future can go within the bank. And so for me, again, from my HR background, that's really important. What are the opportunities that we can provide to our employees to help them grow? And especially in this world where you're hearing all day, every day right now about AI, there's a lot of fear about what that means. And so it means that there's a shift. So how do we prepare them for what's coming and make sure that they feel prepared for this next iteration of what our world is going to look like?
Yeah. So I'm sure you didn't grow up and say, I'm going to be a banker. What did you want to be when you were young?
So when I was really little, I wanted to be a doctor. And then I realized I didn't like the sight of blood, and I have a very horrible habit of when somebody falls or gets injured, I have this nervous habit of laughing, which was not going to translate well in a hospital or in that sort of a setting. And when I was in law school, I actually really thought I wanted to be a trust and estates attorney, which is one of the reasons I looked to doing an internship at Boston Private. And life that's not where my path took me. And I think for me, one of the things I realized is, and you and I spoke about this, I tend to say yes a lot, right? And so if somebody was like, hey, can someone handle this? Yes, I'd love to try that. I'd like to do this. I think there is a wonderful benefit of saying yes. But you need to know when not to say yes, right? We can take on too much. But you have to be open to opportunity. You have to be open to trying new things and just to where your path can take you. And I think it served me well to not be afraid of saying yes, and also not being afraid to take a step back, to take a step forward.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to know your why before you say yes, and we had that conversation. The other thing is I think there's a lot out there like just say no, but I always say, you know what, say yes to the right things, and you certainly did. And you met your husband at that first job, which is just such a great story. I had the opportunity to meet him. He's such a wonderful supporter of you. I love you're now working again. What is it like working with a spouse, especially in this new role?
So, what's funny is most days we don't see each other, and so we're very good. So we've worked together for so many years that we don't bring work home, right? And that is I think one of the things that's been great. It's nice that we know some of the same people, but we don't see each other a lot. And when we're in meetings together, it's all business. And it's actually very funny. We've had people that we've been working with for well over a year now suddenly look at us in a meeting and go, wait a minute, are you? How come we never figured that out? And it's just
same last name.
Yeah, exactly. But it is just for us. It is work, and we work well together. And I think that's because we started working together, and our jobs. He's in IT, so we don't. Clearly, I'm very reliant on him because I can't do anything without IT. But we don't. Our day-to-day does not overlap. So it is nice, but it is not something that really impacts our day-to-day.
Yeah. So as we begin to wrap up here, we're going to put your contact information, the bank's contact information, the belle of the brawl, because I think it's so fascinating. People that will probably want to learn about that. What does living well mean to you at this this chapter in your life?
This chapter in my life, I think it's making time for the things that matter to you. You know, I say this to members of my team, you know, you have to put your family and yourself first, right? Your health is really important. Take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others, and you can't do the things that do matter to you. So take care of that. Take care of yourself. I think it's really important not just to listen, but to hear, right? They're different. And so, you know, I ask my team and my family members to do that. Listen and hear what's being said. And then just take a moment every day to be grateful for what you have, right? It is, you know, I think we can get so caught up in everything moves so quickly, and just a moment of just gratitude is so important.
Yeah, I've heard this somewhere along the way, that it's impossible to be resentful and grateful at the same time. So what do you want to choose? And I love that you choose gratitude.
Yeah.
I love that you said yes to coming on this show and being my guest for this very special month, Women's History. And again, Victoria, big deal that you took so many chances in your career. You never went on a straight path. I love that you zigged when other people would have zagged, and you landed in the role that we talked offline is just so very, very important to you for all the reasons that you shared. To your family, you have a daughter, you have a spouse that is very supportive, and you're now in a position to really mentor and lead a new generation of women close to home in a community bank. So congratulations, and again, thank you for saying yes, and thank you for taking the time to share what I think is a very inspiring story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.